welcome to this month's vlog. This is a reflection on the month of June. Yes, June. It's not long to go until I'm leaving Uganda, so this month has really been filled with some beautiful memories that I'm going to hold on to as I start to plan to move back to the UK. This month has had some really different situations compared to kind of ministry before. The ministry has looked very different, and I'm going to talk more about that later on in the video. But the focus of this video is really to look at the relationships I've established and the deeper connections I've been able to make, thanks to God, with my friends here in Uganda. So let's get stuck into the video. So I started the month by dropping off my friends at the airport and then going on to Ginger. So I went to Ginger to go check out some places and get ready for my interns who are coming. Well, they're actually here right now. So I went to go and check their accommodation and check on plans there for the itinerary I have planned for them. I then went from Ginger with Jimmy and his family over to Kapachura, which is his home village. So it was a public holiday, so we decided to go see his family, have a wonderful time with them, and then go see some of the tourist attractions over near Kapachura, which is Sipi Falls. It was awesome. I stood under a waterfall. It was beautiful. Because I was travelling with Jimmy and his cousin, who both work within the government system, we got to go over to the new facilities made by the government, which was amazing. So we got to be one of the first ones to step on the track, and it's going to be a training centre for athletes. So it was just really cool, like loved that experience. I mean, I'm not an athlete myself, I won't be running on that track anytime soon, but it was really a privilege to go see it. While we were up that side, we also crossed over into Kenya, and I got to see kind of where the border is, which was really exciting. I'd never thought I'd be so far east in Uganda, so to get to see it was really, really cool. I loved spending this time with Jimmy and investing in him and his family. Jimmy has been a really important person in my life in Uganda. He has supported and helped me so much in many different ways, and he's always the person I call if I'm ever concerned or worried about any situation. He is so calm and so collected and gives me great wisdom, so I'm really thankful for him. So to get to spend this time with him and his family and really understand more about his life, it was really special. And then when I got back to Rukungiri, I was greeted by Sydney, who's come back from America to get married in Uganda. And I also was arrived at the same time as my friend Tom, who was staying with us in Rukungiri to be a part of the work we were doing with our Father's House Ministries and such. So with Tom, I went over and carried on the work I've been doing with the family I've been working with, this boy called Regan, and had some really great time there. His grandmother has really warmed to us, and Tom got to have some lovely conversations with her, which was really nice to see the way they were talking about their lives while I was working with Regan. While I was sat with Regan, we always go back to kind of the start position of him being very nervous to see me, him not wanting to look me in the eye, him looking very uncomfortable. But we spent about maybe 2 or 3 hours there, and to see the development in the way he is actively wanting to develop in his social skills is really encouraging, really inspiring. By the end of the session, he had grabbed my 2 hands and started clapping them together. Now the same seems really simple, but it's not. It's such a massive step for him. The closest contact we'd ever had was him putting his hand on top of my hand. So for him to purposely grab both my hands and start playing with me was just a really special moment of connection. Showed me that the work that we're doing doing there really means so much. And not only to Regan, because I think this could have happened with anyone, I'm not unique, but it was the testimony that came out of it, of this is what happens when you invest some time in a person. This is what happens when you get past the uncomfortable stage with someone and you get past those social barriers. And I was so encouraged to hear that the other workers from our Father's House ministry who join me on those trips, who watch what I do with Regan, they were asking afterwards, like, how did you do that? We never thought he would even want to like touch our hands, and yet by the end he was playing with you. And I was like, yeah, it's all about giving time. It's about showing love, showing that you have time to spend on this person, that you're not in a rush, that you're willing to just be and exist with them. And it really goes a long way to show that love. So I'm really glad for the testimony that came out of that, for the encouragement it gave to the staff who will continue to work with Regan, as they see that a little bit of investment with time with this boy can really change some things about his behaviour and how he interacts with people, which is what our goal is, to get him slightly more self-sufficient in his socialising. And of course, with our Father's House ministries, you can't have a good day of work without some pork. So we went off to a pork joint and had a great time with Tom, as Tom got to know the team more. He mentioned to me how he really wants to be a vet one day. He loves wildlife and wants to help care for the animals of this world, which is a beautiful thing and not something you hear very often in Uganda. So I had mentioned that to Martin, and Martin said, oh, well, we'll go to the farm. I need to take my vet there to go check on one of the cows. So before we knew it, we were doing like a farm visit, and Tom was in his element, loving every second. I loved connecting Martin and Tom together. So I met Tom in Kabale at the lakes, and he shared his passion for animals and what he was doing and what he was being educated in, and I got to introduce him to some of my friends, and that friendship has just grown and grown and grown, and I'm seeing the wonderful things that God has planned for Tom through the friendships I have, through the connections he's making in Rukungiri. I know he found it really difficult to leave Rukungiri because we showed him such a good time, and we showed him all the love we have to give as a community. I also went back into schools ministry this month with Reverend Hans. I spoke about him in the last video where he was ordained, and he is the chaplain of a boys' school within the diocese. So I went to this school and I went and joined in on their service, and I got to speak to them about and share my testimony and why I love Jesus and kind of the starting steps of what it means to become a Christian and how it can be really difficult, and that there were really big challenges you will overcome in the first few years of your faith, realizing which friends to let go of, realizing which vices in your life are keeping you from God. We had all those difficult conversations, but it was such a joy, and that's really what I love to do with youth. I love to be the pastor, as they call it. I love to be the pastor in the room that's going to be really honest with them about sexual sin and those things that are, as teenagers and young adults, we go through a lot more before we get to marriage. And I think it always shocks them when I'm willing to talk about sex, when I'm willing to talk about relationships, something that other pastors won't really mention to young people. And then after that ministry, we went out onto the volleyball pitch. Is it a pitch? I mean, I don't know volleyball at all, but I think it's a pitch. Yeah, let's go with pitch. I met up with Sydney and Tom, who joined me as we played a volleyball game with the students. So Hans, as well as being a reverend, is also an organiser and coach for a volleyball team in Rukungiri. He actually does an incredible job setting up scholarships and supporting young boys through the volleyball. And this is a really great way. He finds it's a great way of doing ministry with them, and he finds that he gets to teach them a lot about their etiquette and the respect and the friendship they have with one another. He finds that sports is the best way to start talking about what it looks like to have healthy friendships and what it looks like to conduct yourself in a certain manner that is pleasing and what God wants for us. An absolute pleasure this month was getting to go back to Chile Children. So Chile Children is one of the charities I started working with when I first came to Uganda. It's actually the reason I came to Uganda. I read online about how they were planning to build this school that had a special needs department within the mainstream school, and how it was going to be the first one in West Uganda. And I just knew that's where my heart was. And so that's what started me off with coming to Uganda. I came when I was 15 years old and started working on this project in the school, helping with building and construction. I know it doesn't sound like me, but I was brick building. I quickly changed and started playing with the children instead, but I was there to brick build. But that's how my relationship with Chile Children started. And then I got the privilege of, as Emily, as one of their trustees, was away and she's their in-country trustee, she asked me if I would go in her place and go do the photos and videos for an event they were having. They'd been given a lot of new equipment, so the bishop was coming to bless the equipment, and thank God for it. So I got the privilege of meeting the new bishop for Rukungiri. His name's Bishop Onesimus, and we had the best time. He was so kind and considerate to the children. He made sure they felt seen and known and loved. And I was so inspired by his interactions and the way he conducted himself. We had great conversations, and he really inspired me and encouraged me in my faith. And I'm just so excited for what's going to come next in that friendship. I can't wait to see him again and get to know him more and get to know his ministry more, as he is the leader of our whole area in Rukungiri, and what flows from his work flows into what our work is as pastoral workers in the community. So I was so inspired by him, and just it was such a joyful day. The children had so much fun meeting the bishop, and I just fell in love with Uganda all over again. Chile Children was the first reason I fell in love with Uganda. I mean, there are many reasons, but Chile Children had my heart for such a long time and still does. So to be able to go back and join them in the work they're doing and just be inspired all over again by them was just so beautiful. I'm so thankful for that experience, and I'm so thankful I got to bring along Tom and Sydney to that, so they could meet some other people within the diocese, so they could get to know the other charities that are at work and be inspired too. I hope I somehow, through that experience, connected them to the people who God's going to lead them into in the future. I think it's the biggest joy of being a Christian and introducing one Christian to another, because I just know that God has plans there, and that was the first step. So I'm really excited for what's to come, and I'm praying for both Sydney and Tom as they look more into their ministries in Uganda. Also, with me and Sydney being back in Uganda together, so context for me and Sydney is that we met last May. She was just finishing her work in Uganda. She'd done a year like me, and she was going back to America while I was getting ready to come out to Uganda. So we were kind of like passing ships, and we were still getting to know each other, and we didn't really know each other very well. So for her to come back to Uganda and join me, and for us to be housemates, is such a blessing. And we've had time to really just socialize and be in Uganda together, just experience what normal life is like in Uganda, not just one mission to the next, which school are we talking in today, which piece of ministry are we doing today, just general life ministry of meeting people and getting to know the community and seeing what happens. So one of the things I was invited to, which I invited Sydney along to, was the Lions presidential event. I'm going to call it that. It's where the Lions Club, which is a organisation that brings together people who want to share their wealth and their resources with those who are less fortunate. So the Lions Club meet in Rukungiri. It's an international organisation, but they have a group in Rukungiri. So they were coming together to celebrate that they were getting a new president. So we had a great time celebrating with them. Martin was also given a certificate for his service to the Lions Club, so we got to celebrate with Martin and just enjoy a part of his life, a part of his personal life, or what he does when he's outside of his ministry hours. And that was such a joy, and it was also a really important reminder that when you're working in difficult areas of the country where geographically poverty is very present, it's easy to think that the whole of Uganda is like that, and it's just not true. Uganda is a growing and developing country. There are people with wealth who want to share it and make their country better, and to meet some of those people at this Lions event was just incredible. I was really inspired by this room of people who all had a heart to share their resources and share what God had given them with other people. So I thank Martin so much for that experience. We had a lot of fun, we danced through the night. It was a really great opportunity to be a part of the other side of Uganda, the more wealthy side, and to get to have insight into what that looks like for people with wealth in Uganda. And before I knew it, I was on the road again traveling. This time I was working with Tour Rukungiri. So a group of friends had contacted me and said, we're putting together this thing, we want to help tourism in Rukungiri, we want to help develop it, because tourism in Uganda often is confined to the national parks where the zebras and lions and giraffes are. But what they're wanting to do is promote local tourism, so people who live in Rukungiri can go out for the day and see the wonderful things Rukungiri has to offer. I was really thankful that on this trip I didn't actually have to edit this video. This was sent to me by Tour Rukungiri, so I'm really thankful, and I'm just going to play it for you now. We're here at Matuma Island. We just arrived and we're getting on a boat to go over to the island for dinner and to dance and have fun. It's so beautiful here. I can't wait to explore it more.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. This is Tour Rukungiri. Right now we are sailing on one of the lakes I love, and I have a feeling the lake loves me as well. So we have a group of people. This is more like a climax. We've toured different places. We've gone to Minera, we've gone to Shumba. We've gone to Tisizi. We decided to fly Maxi to the sail boat cruise. We have Simon, we have Harrison, we have Samson, we have my main man, Arnold, say hello. We have more power representing. This is Nyarihoko, Lake Nyarihoko, and right now we are sailing to one of the islands, to Mutumo Resort Island. It's basically my favorite. Of course, there are quite a number of islands on, but to me, I think it's one I connect to. And I have a feeling the team will have an experience of touring around and having a boat sail, sunset. Like we say, this is Tour Rukungiri to the world and bringing the world to Rukungiri. And this is something we're going to be doing periodically so that we can explore the beautiful places in Rukungiri and places that are so close to Rukungiri. So like this one, this is Ntungamo district.
So after that wonderful experience of spending more time with my friends and helping in that project, I then was heading off to the city again with Sydney. Sydney is getting married, like I said, so we were going to do some preparations for her wedding. None of this was planned or expected. When she was coming back to Uganda, we spoke a bit about her wedding preparations, but not very seriously. So for her to arrive and be like, Mo, I actually need a dress, I was like, oh my goodness, what an exciting thing to get to be a part of. I can't imagine how challenging it is right now for Sydney and Peter as they prepare for their marriage. They're getting married in Uganda, and because it's in Uganda, there's lots of cultural things that people are wanting to put upon the wedding, and I'm really glad to be another voice in that situation and to champion for Sydney's culture and say, no, this needs to be a compromise. You're putting two different cultures together within a marriage, so there's certain things that the bride deserves to have a say in, and to just be that voice in that situation has been such a blessing. I think God put me there right for that moment to encourage Sydney and to be there for her and support her side of the culture. So being a part of that is such a privilege, and Sydney, if you're watching this, I thank you so much for making me a part of your wedding in this way. I love you and Peter so much. I'm so excited for your marriage together and your ministry and your future children. I'm just so excited and cheering you on, and I can't wait for all those things that are to come. And I'm so thankful that we found your wedding dress. So all those things were the highlights of my month, really, and so unexpected. I did not expect that my year of ministry would look like that, but ministry comes in all different contexts, and I know that God was with us in those moments as we encouraged one another in our faith. And finally, a very important thing that happened this month is that I aged up. I got older. So on the 25th of June, I had my birthday. It started in church, and then we went off to the pool and had a pool party and celebrations to celebrate my 24 years. Or 23 years. I was then I am now 24. I don't know. But we had the best time, and again, it was just a reminder from God about how faithful He's been to me in Uganda. I was looking around as I was blowing out my candles and just thinking, wow, look at all these friends that I've been able to collect up and grow in a relationship with, and those that I trust and care about and who care about me, who I've been doing ministry with. I just was so thankful for my group of friends in Rukungiri, and this month has really been a month to take note and go, wow, God, you have placed these wonderful people in my life, and I need to thank you for it, because it's not by accident. I know you did this to encourage me and to help me look forward to what's going to happen in the future in Uganda, the kind of life I could have in Uganda because of the friendships I have around me. So I was so inspired and encouraged and just felt so loved on my birthday, and we really had the best time. We swam, we ate cake, we played games, and then we played pool, and then we got back in the pool and swam again in the middle of the night. It was just so much fun, and I'm very excited for 24. So that's the end of this month's video. Thank you so much for joining me. As I said, this month has been filled with friendship, and that's really what I feel God has been showing me and loving me through, the friendships around me. So I pray that you too have those wonderful godly friendships in your life, and I will see you next month for the final video. Oh my goodness. I'll see you next month for the final month of my time in Uganda. Bye.